I built my dream motorcycle shop, but when my fiancée cheated on a secret trip with her ex, I canceled our wedding and reclaimed control of my life. I, a 29-year-old male, own a custom motorcycle shop in Phoenix. I make decent money, not extravagant, but enough to live comfortably in Arizona. I've been grinding since I was 20. I finally got the shop fully established last year after working tirelessly 60-plus hours a week. For years, I started with just myself in a tiny garage space I rented from an old mechanic who was retiring. Now I've got 4 full-time employees and a reputation for some of the cleanest custom work in the Southwest. The shop wasn't handed to me on a silver platter. I saved every dollar I made working at other shops, took night classes on business management, and lived in a studio apartment the size of a shoebox for 3 years to build my capital. There's something deeply satisfying about walking into my shop every morning, knowing every bolt, every tool, every square inch is there because I earned it. I've never been the type to splurge on fancy things. My dad watched his brother lose everything in a nasty divorce back in the 90s. House, retirement savings. He even had to liquidate his small business to pay the settlement. Dad drilled financial responsibility into my head from day one. Luke, build your own safety net because nobody else will. That advice turned out to be a lifesaver. I remember when I bought my first proper tool set. Dad came over to my apartment, saw me organizing these brand new snap-on wrenches, and just nodded. Good investment. Tools make money, toys don't. Then he helped me build a custom storage solution for them using scrap wood from his garage. That's my dad. Practical advice followed by practical help. I bought my apartment 3 years ago when the market dipped slightly. The rest of my money goes straight to investment accounts for the shop. The only exceptions to my frugal lifestyle are my Ducati Monster, midnight black, with a custom exhaust that sounds like pure mechanical poetry, and my dog Max, a 3-year-old German Shepherd who's been with me since he was a puppy. I take him to the shop sometimes. Customers love him, and he just chills by my office, occasionally greeting people with a tennis ball in his mouth. Max has been the most consistent relationship in my life. No drama, no complaints about working late, just pure loyalty. He's the kind of companion who's equally happy going for a mountain run or just lying at your feet while you work on engine blueprints. My fiancée, Stacy, a 27-year-old female, and I had been together for 2 years, engaged for the last 6 months. The wedding was planned for this fall. We had already put down deposits on the venue, catering, the works. She moved into my apartment after the first year. Things seemed good on the surface. She had her career. I had mine with the shop. We had the whole future mapped out. Meeting Stacy was one of those things that seemed like fate at the time. A friend of a friend introduced us at a housewarming party. She was gorgeous, blonde hair, always perfectly styled, the kind of woman who turns heads when she walks into a room. Smart, too. She always had the right thing to say to clients and knew how to work a room. Our first few dates were perfect. She seemed interested in my business, asked all the right questions, and laughed at my jokes. Thinking back now, there were some red flags I ignored. She'd make comments about my friends being too basic because they liked sports and gaming. She called my best friend Tristan's apartment a man cave nightmare just because he had gaming consoles and a big TV. Tristan never liked her much. He said she had princess vibes and always acted differently around certain people. Notice how she talks to that waiter versus how she talks to your landlord, he'd point out, comparing 2 different people. I brushed it off as her being socially adaptable. That's what we do as guys sometimes. We see what we want to see. When a woman who looks like she could be on a magazine cover shows interest, we ignore the warning signs, a basic male programming error. But I ignored all that because I thought we were solid. The sex was great. She looked amazing on my arm at industry events. And I thought I'd found someone who respected my grind. When she hinted about marriage, I thought, why not? I was established, ready to start the next chapter. It was a random evening in May. I was prepping dinner. Yes, I did most of the cooking, even after working all day at the shop. While she was too tired from sitting at a desk, when my phone buzzed with a text. Luke, things feel complicated. I'm stressing over the wedding, and I really need some space to think and figure things out. Don't contact me for a while, please. I'll reach out when I'm ready. Gut punch doesn't begin to describe it. 6 months from our wedding, and she needs space. No warning, no conversation. Just a text asking me to effectively disappear while she figured things out. But fine, I tried to be understanding. I texted back, okay, I understand, take the time you need. Then, nothing. Radio silence, which is what she asked for. I spent the next couple of days in a fog. I couldn't focus at work. I was trying to finish a custom seat for a '72 Triumph when Tristan stopped by the shop. He watched me sand the leather for about 20 minutes before saying, "Dude, that seat was done half an hour ago. You're just going through the motions." He was right. I put down the tools and closed the shop early for the first time in months. Tristan came over Thursday night with pizza and told me bluntly, "Dude, this isn't normal. Nobody asks for space 6 months before their wedding unless they're doing something shady." I defended her at first. Maybe she's really just stressed about the wedding. Her mom's been putting a lot of pressure on her about the guest list. Even to my own ears, it sounded weak. Tristan just gave me that look. The one that says, "You're smarter than this," without having to speak the words. He'd been my friend since high school, seen me through my mom's death, helped me move shop locations twice, and never asked for anything in return. The kind of friend who shows up with tools when you mention a project, not excuses when you need help. Then Friday night, I got a text from Stacy's friend Melissa, one of her coworkers who I'd always gotten along with. "Luke, I think you should see this. I feel bad showing you, but you deserve to know." Attached was a screenshot from Stacy's Instagram close friends story that Melissa was part of. Pictures of bright sunshine, beach cocktails, Stacy looking ridiculously happy, arm in arm with Jordan, her ex-boyfriend. The caption read, "Living our best lives. Island getaway reunited. Sometimes you need to revisit the past to see your future clearly." My blood ran cold. Space to think meant a tropical vacation with her ex-boyfriend while explicitly asking me for no contact. And she was careless enough to post it on her close friend story, forgetting Melissa and I were friendly. I called Melissa for details. It turns out Stacy had told everyone at work she was taking vacation days for a family emergency. Apparently, the emergency involved bikinis, pina coladas, and her ex-boyfriend. His tongue down her throat and several other photos Melissa sent me. The hurt morphed into something else, a cold, hard clarity. She didn't just want space. She wanted me out of the way while she test drove her old relationship, keeping me as a backup plan in my own apartment, using my resources while telling me to leave her alone. All while our wedding venues had my deposits and her engagement ring sat on her finger in those beach photos. Fine. Saturday morning I went into tactical mode. First call, wedding venue canceled. I lost the $5,000 deposit, but whatever. Cheaper than a divorce. Second call, caterer. Another $2,000 gone. Photographer, florist, DJ. One by one, I methodically erased the wedding she'd spent months planning. Next call, locksmith. I had the deadbolt and knob lock on my apartment door changed. It cost about $250, worth every penny. I spent the next hour going through paperwork, documenting everything I'd paid for versus what she had. The reality was sobering. My contribution had been about 80% of our shared expenses. Next, the ring. Stacy had conveniently left it on her nightstand before leaving, probably to avoid tan lines in her beach photos with Jordan. It was a 3-carat diamond that cost me nearly $15,000. I put it in my safe along with the documentation showing I had purchased it. In Arizona, engagement rings are considered conditional gifts. Then, the car. About 6 months ago, Stacy's old Honda finally died. The timing belt went, bent the valves, and would have cost more to fix than the car was worth. She needed reliable transportation for client meetings, but her credit was poor after. Maxing out credit cards on designer bags and $300 face creams. I agreed to help. I bought a used but very decent Mazda 6 for about $18,000. The loan, title, and insurance are all solely in my name. I'm not foolish. My dad's brother made that mistake, letting his ex-wife drive a car he was paying for during their separation. She totaled it. It wasn't properly insured, and he still had to pay off the loan while being sued by the other driver. Not happening to me. I called my dad that night. I needed his perspective, Dad. Stacy asked for space, then went to Hawaii with her ex. I'm changing the locks and selling her car. Dead silence for a moment. Then, son, your Uncle Dave lost his house over less. You're doing what needs doing. He cleared his throat. Need help moving furniture? The understanding was she'd make payments to me, which she did, sometimes late. And it was her car to use, but legally it was 100% mine. I never added her to anything. I took the spare key, drove it to a dealership that buys used cars, and explained, I'm the registered owner. I need to sell. They offered around $16,500, pending inspection. I signed the initial paperwork and left the car there. Her designated parking spot at the apartment complex was now empty. The manager at the dealership raised an eyebrow when I explained I was selling my fiancé's car. I just shrugged and said, she wanted space. I'm giving her about 16,500 feet of it. I called Tristan to pick me up. He was impressed. Damn, you're ice cold right now, but she deserves it. We spent the weekend boxing up her stuff from the apartment. Not throwing it out, just getting it ready. Every designer shoe, I counted 37 pairs. Every overpriced handbag, every piece of jewelry I'd given her for birthdays and anniversaries, all carefully packed away. I found some interesting things during the process. Credit card statements showing thousands in debt. She'd never mentioned a hidden stash of emergency cash, about $800, taped to the back of her dresser, and a journal where she'd written pros and cons lists about me versus Jordan dated. 3 months ago, my name had financial stability and good future father in the pros column. Jordan had exciting, passionate, and history together on his side. Guess which way she was leaning based on her current location. I also had a meeting with my lawyer, shared the screenshots, explained the situation, and asked about protecting myself. Arizona is not a common law marriage state, so at least there was that. We'd never merged finances. My apartment was solely in my name, and the car was legally mine. He advised documenting everything: the engagement termination, the car sale, the items in the apartment, and to communicate only in writing going forward. I felt calm, like performing necessary surgery. Did I feel like a complete idiot? Absolutely. But emotions weren't driving this bus. Logic was. She asked for space and no contact. She demonstrated the relationship was over by vacationing with her ex. I was simply respecting her request and protecting myself. The shop was quiet that weekend. I went in anyway, just to have somewhere to be. I started reorganizing the tool room, deep cleaning equipment, and updating our inventory system. All those things that get pushed aside during busy weeks. There's something therapeutic about bringing order to a space when your personal life is in chaos. Diego, my head mechanic, came in for a few hours to help with a rush job. He didn't ask why I was there on a Sunday, just handed me tools when I needed them. That's what I appreciate about the guys at the shop. They understand that sometimes you need to work with your hands to process what's happening in your head. According to Instagram, the best life vacation lasted another week. The countdown to meltdown was on. One small mercy in all this: at least my Ducati was safe. Stacy had always complained about it being too dangerous and a waste of money, but I'd stood firm on keeping it. When Tristan picked me up from the dealership, he looked at me and said, "Bike ride this weekend, you need it." He was right. She'd actually tried to get me to sell the Ducati about 6 months into our relationship. We could use that money for a down payment on a bigger place, she'd suggested. Never mind that I already owned my apartment and had no interest in taking on more debt for a bigger place we didn't need. The Ducati stayed, and now I was grateful for that small victory. Sunday morning, we took our bikes up through the mountains, Tristan on his Kawasaki, me on the Ducati. The focus required to handle those curves at speed was exactly what I needed. It's impossible to think about relationship drama when you're calculating lean angles and watching for gravel. The one part I did feel guilty about was Max. Stacy had technically agreed to our dog, but she'd never really taken care of him. She'd complained about his fur, his energy, and the cost of his food. Still, he'd be confused when she didn't come back. Turns out I didn't need to worry. Max seemed happier with just me there, claiming the whole couch without being shooed off. Stacy's tropical getaway with Jordan lasted a total of 10 days. Then, D-Day arrived. Tuesday evening, around 9 o'clock, I was having a beer with Tristan, who insisted on being there in case it gets wild. We heard keys jangling outside, then confused scraping at the lock, then pounding. "Luke, open the door. My key isn't working." Tristan glanced at me. "Showtime." I opened the door halfway. Stacy stood there, looking beach-tanned and furious, suitcase beside her. "What the hell? Why isn't my key working?" "Because I changed the locks," I said, my voice steady. Her eyes widened. "You what? Why would you do that?" "You asked for space and no contact, Stacy. I gave it to you permanently. Wedding's canceled too. Already called everyone." "What are you talking about? I just needed some time to think." I pulled out my phone and showed her the screenshot Melissa sent me. "Think about this with Jordan on your romantic beach getaway that you posted about." Her face went from angry to panic-stricken in a millisecond. That was just... Melissa showed you that? It's not what it looks like. Looks like my fiancé on vacation with her ex while I'm home planning our wedding. Pretty self-explanatory. It was a last-minute thing. He was going through a hard time and needed someone to talk to. Tristan snorted from behind me. I just stared at her. "So, you flew to Maui to be his therapist?" Her eyes darted to the empty parking spot. "Where's my car, Luke?" The entitlement in her voice was unreal, like I'd hidden her toy. "It's not your car. Never was. It's being sold. Title, loan, insurance, all in my name. You're selling my car?" She actually stomped her foot. "You can't do that. I've been making payments." Payments for using my car, which is now over. This is insane. I'm calling the cops. She pulled out her phone. Tristan, who'd been watching, started laughing. Yeah, call them. Tell them your ex-fiancé is selling his own car and changed the locks on his own apartment after you cheated. That'll go well. Stacy looked like she just noticed him. This isn't your business. You made it my business when you decided to mess around on my best friend. She turned back to me. Luke, baby, you're overreacting. Jordan means nothing to me. It was just a stupid trip to clear my head. I realized I want to be with you. I almost laughed. Save the performance. Your stuff is boxed up. Text me when you want to pick it up. That's when her sister Brooke, a 25-year-old female, appeared from the elevator. Great. Reinforcements. Brooke was Stacy's mini-me, same entitled attitude, same expensive taste, same tendency to treat service workers like furniture. The only difference was Brooke hadn't found her own sucker to bankroll her lifestyle yet. What's going on? She demanded. Stacy, full waterworks now, said, He changed the locks. He sold my car. He canceled our wedding. Brooke glared at me like I'd committed war crimes. After everything my sister has done for you, you just throw her out? Tristan snorted. What exactly has she done for him besides taking a beach vacation with her ex? I held up a hand, cutting off the brewing argument. Check her Instagram. We're done. From inside the apartment, Max started barking at all the commotion. Stacy's eyes widened. Are you keeping Max too? The audacity was breathtaking. The dog whose name you couldn't remember half the time? That dog. She needed space to think. Not for you to ruin her life. Brooke was practically screaming. She made choices. Now she gets to live with the consequences. Your stuff will be in the lobby tomorrow at noon. 1 hour window. If it's not picked up, it goes to Goodwill. I shut the door and locked it. Through the door, I could hear Stacy's meltdown intensifying. Tristan just shook his head. Dude, bullet dodged. Want another drink? Max, who'd been anxiously watching the door, came over and put his head on my knee. I scratched behind his ears. It's just us now, buddy. Tristan raised his bottle. To the most expensive lesson you'll ever learn. I clinked my bottle against his. Worth every penny. Later that night, after Tristan left, I sat on my balcony looking at the city lights. For the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe freely. No more explaining why I needed to work late at the shop. No more defending time with my friends. I sent a quick text to my dad. It's done. Locks changed. Car sold. Wedding canceled. His response came a minute later. Proud of you, son. Come by for steaks this weekend. Bring Max. Your mom would have kicked her ass, by the way. That made me smile. Mom had been gone for 6 years, but Dad was right. She'd have seen through Stacy in a heartbeat. The next day was like watching someone realize gravity exists after stepping off a cliff. Stacy's text started at 6 o'clock in the morning. You can't do this to me. Where am I supposed to live? I need my car for work. We need to talk about this like adults. I made a mistake, but you're being cruel. I didn't respond to any of them. Tristan and I loaded up her boxes and brought them to the lobby at noon sharp. I'd even organized everything by category, the kind of courtesy she didn't deserve, but I provided anyway because I'm not an animal. Stacy showed up with Brooke and their mom, Cheryl, in tow. Cheryl, the source of Stacy's entitlement, immediately launched into me. Luke, this is completely unacceptable behavior. Stacy made one mistake. She was confused. She's under so much pressure with the wedding. Not anymore, she's not, I said. I gestured to the boxes. Everything's here. You have 1 hour. Cheryl's face turned purple. Stacy was alternating between crying and glaring daggers at me. Brooke was on her phone, probably updating the rest of the family drama group chat. I left them to it. Told the doorman they had until 1 o'clock, then went for lunch with Tristan. When we came back, they were gone, along with her stuff. Mission accomplished. But it didn't end there. The texts and calls multiplied. Stacy, Brooke, Cheryl, even their dad got in on it. When blocking their numbers didn't work, they started using friends' phones. The narrative they were spinning was something else. According to them, I had brutally discarded Stacy over one misunderstanding, stolen her car, and kept her apartment. No mention of the beach vacation with the ex, of course. Stacy's social media went into overdrive, vague posts about trusting the wrong person and healing from betrayal. A particularly dramatic one showed her staring wistfully out a window with the caption, "Sometimes the people you take a bullet for are the ones behind the trigger." The irony was thick enough to cut with a knife. Then our mutual friends started hitting me up. Dude, that's cold, selling her car like that. Couldn't you have given her more time to find a place? Melissa, bless her, was shutting that down wherever she could. He has screenshots, people. She was on a romantic trip with her ex while engaged. Stacy must have figured out Melissa sent me the screenshots because soon Melissa was texting me, she got me fired. Told our boss I was creating a hostile work environment by meddling in her personal life. That angered me more than anything else. Melissa had done the right thing, and Stacy destroyed her job out of spite. I immediately called Melissa, offering to help with references, connections, whatever she needed. It was the least I could do. Melissa thanked me. I knew she was self-centered, but I didn't think she'd go this far. I promised to put her in touch with some industry contacts who might be hiring. She had skills. Stacy's vindictiveness shouldn't derail her career. That night, Tristan came over for our weekly gaming session. We fired up Call of Duty while Max lounged at our feet. My phone kept buzzing with texts from Stacy using yet another friend's number. Tristan grabbed my phone between rounds and started reading them in a high-pitched, mocking voice. "You're making a huge mistake, Luke. I was confused, but I chose you. Please respond." He scrolled to the next one, adding dramatic flair. "My mother is very disappointed in you and says you're behaving childishly." I clutched my chest in fake horror. "Guess I'll just cry myself to sleep on my Ducati." Tristan read another. "I hope you know you're breaking my heart. I cried all night thinking about our wedding." He nearly choked on his drink. "Oh my God, she's seriously complaining about her vacation time after cheating on you." My phone buzzed again. Tristan looked at it and burst out laughing. "Dude," she just texted, "I miss Max. He misses me too. Dogs need a mother." I glanced at Max, who was contentedly chewing his favorite toy, completely unbothered. Yeah, he's clearly devastated. Look at him, practically wasting away from grief. Tristan was still scrolling through my messages. Wait, here's one from her dad. "Luke, I've always respected you as a businessman, but your behavior towards my daughter is unacceptable. We expect you to make this right." Tristan looked up at me. "What exactly does make this right mean? Give her back the car you paid for? Let her live in your apartment rent-free?" I shrugged. "Probably all of the above, plus a groveling apology for having the audacity to be upset about her cheating." The whole situation was so absurd it had crossed into comedy. Stacy and her family lived in a world where actions didn't have consequences, at least not for them. In their version of reality, I was the villain for responding logically to her betrayal. At work, I focused on a new project, a vintage Honda CB700, and 50 that a client had dropped off for a complete restoration. There's something therapeutic about tearing down an engine to its individual components, cleaning each part and building it back up better than before. The shop became my sanctuary, a place where problems had logical solutions, and every task had a clear beginning and end. My employees noticed the change in me. Diego, my head mechanic, finally asked what was up after I spent 3 straight hours reconfiguring a wiring harness without taking a break. I gave him the highlight reel. His response was perfect, a slow nod, then, "Women, man." My cousin went through the same thing. "You want me to order those brake calipers for the Triumph while you finish that wiring?" That's what I needed, practical solutions, not drama. The shop stayed open late that week as I threw myself into work. Nothing cures heartbreak like productivity and a bank account that's growing instead of bleeding money on someone else's desires. Dad stopped by the shop on Thursday with lunch, a tradition he'd started when I first opened the place. He'd bring sandwiches from this little deli near his house, and we'd eat in my office talking about everything and nothing. "How you holding up?" he asked between bites. "Better than expected," I admitted. "Work helps." He nodded. "Your Uncle Dave gained 15 pounds after his divorce, sat around eating microwave burritos and watching game shows." He looked at me. "You're doing it right. Stay busy. Keep moving forward." Simple advice, but exactly what I needed to hear. 2 weeks after the return, the real harassment campaign started. First came the police. I got home from work to find a patrol car outside my building. 2 officers wanted to talk about a domestic dispute and allegations I was withholding personal property. I showed them the documentation my lawyer had prepared, proof of car ownership, apartment lease in my name only, canceled wedding receipts. I showed them the screenshot of Stacy with Jordan and explained I had given her all her possessions. They left satisfied this was a relationship issue, not a legal one. One officer actually gave me a knowing look as they were leaving. "Document everything from here on out," he advised quietly. "These situations tend to escalate." Words of wisdom from someone who'd seen this play out before. The next day, a call from my landlord about a noise complaint. Apparently, an anonymous neighbor reported loud arguments and possible domestic disturbances. I explained the situation and, thankfully, had a good relationship with the property manager. She admitted she'd seen Stacy trying to tailgate residents into the building several times, against policy. Then things escalated. Stacy and Brooke started showing up at my workplace, just happening to be in the lobby when I was leaving. Once, Stacy tried to force her way into the elevator with me, screaming about how I'd ruined her life. Diego and the guys formed a protective barrier when they saw what was happening. "Boss, want us to call security?" Diego asked, positioning himself between Stacy and me. I nodded, and they escorted the sisters out. My team had my back, no questions asked. This was getting out of control. I filed a police report documenting the harassment, started recording every interaction, saved every text and voicemail, and installed a security camera at my apartment door connected to my phone. I gave the front desk a photo of Stacy and instructions not to let her up under any circumstances. The breaking point came when I woke up to find my car's tires slashed. Security cameras caught Brooke doing it at 3 o'clock in the morning. The footage was crystal clear, her face clearly visible as she knelt by each tire, methodically puncturing them with what looked like a hunting knife. The police were called, and charges were filed. The incident report put the damage at over $800. All 4 tires were high-performance ones I'd upgraded to last year. Thankfully, my insurance covered it after the deductible, but the hassle of getting the car towed and fixed was a major inconvenience. I was paranoid about the Ducati after that and started parking it in a secure garage a block away just in case. No way I was letting them get to my baby. That bike represented the reward for years of hard work. If they damaged it, I'm not sure I could have maintained my composure. That same day, I got an email from Jordan, of all people. "Man, I'm sorry about all this. She told me you two were already over before our trip. I didn't know you were still engaged. She's been showing up at my place too. Just thought you should know." It turns out Stacy had fed him a complete fiction that we'd broken up weeks before, claiming I was possessive and wouldn't accept it was over. When he found out the truth from mutual friends, he ended things immediately. Now she was showing up at his apartment unannounced, crying, demanding another chance. "Bullet dodged, brother," he said before hanging up. I couldn't argue with that. Later I found out Stacy had been spreading rumors that I was abusive, that I controlled her finances, that I'd trapped her in the relationship. Classic Darvo: deny, attack, reverse victim and offender. She was casting herself as the victim of a controlling monster rather than a woman who got caught cheating and lost her meal ticket. The problem with her narrative, too many people had seen the reality. My neighbors had seen me walking Max alone every night while she was inside watching Netflix. My employees had seen her showing up, demanding money when her credit cards were maxed out. Our friends had seen how she treated service staff when she thought no one important was watching. Through it all, Tristan and Melissa were solid. Tristan even let Stacy know through a mutual friend that I was documenting everything for a restraining order. Melissa, despite losing her job, sent me additional screenshots of Stacy bragging about the beach trip to friends before she left. "Luke thinks I'm just taking time to think, LOL. Meanwhile, Jordan and I will be living it up in paradise." The screenshots had timestamps, dates, the whole 9 yards, undeniable evidence of premeditated deception. I added it all to the growing file my lawyer was keeping. I called my dad after the tire slashing incident. "They're escalating," I told him. "Slashed my tires, showing up at work, spreading rumors." "Makes sense," he said, surprisingly calm. "How does any of this make sense?" "Son, you took away her free ride. People don't give up resources without a fight. Your uncle's ex-wife did the same, keyed his truck, told the neighbors he was cheating. It's what happens when the gravy train stops rolling." He paused, then added, "Got your security camera set up like I showed you?" "Yes, sir. Caught her sister on video with the knife." "Good man. I filed for the restraining order. I had a mountain of evidence, the workplace incidents, the slashed tires, the constant harassment, the false police reports, dozens of messages from different numbers after being blocked. The hearing was scheduled. I was ready. The restraining order hearing was like watching a live-action version of the surprise Pikachu meme. Stacy showed up with Cheryl, both dressed like they were going to church, probably expecting sympathy from the judge. I showed up with my lawyer and a binder full of evidence. Stacy's strategy became clear quickly: play the devastated, confused young woman who made one mistake and was now being punished excessively by a controlling ex. It might have worked if we didn't have the receipts. My lawyer methodically laid out the pattern of harassment. The judge flipped through the evidence with an increasingly stern expression. The restraining order was granted immediately, 3 years, no contact within 500 feet of me, my home, or my workplace. That should have been the end. But Stacy's family had one more card to play. the desperation card. About a month after the hearing, Cheryl called. The family was in financial distress. Stacy couldn't hold a job without transportation. Brooke had legal bills from the vandalism charge. They needed help. Could I please reconsider selling Stacy her car back to her? Maybe loan them some money to get back on their feet? I laughed so hard. The absolute audacity. These people had tried to destroy my reputation, career, and property, and now wanted financial assistance. Cheryl, I said calmly, Stacy and Brooke are both in violation of the restraining order by having you contact me. I'm forwarding this call to my lawyer and the police. Don't call again. Later, I found out through the grapevine what happened next. Stacy had been fired from her job. It turns out repeatedly missing work because you don't have a car doesn't fly professionally. The beach trip had maxed out her credit cards. She'd been crashing with her parents but had succeeded in driving a wedge into their marriage with her constant demands. Jordan was long gone. He blocked Stacy after she showed up drunk at his apartment one too many times. Brooke had community service for the tire slashing, plus had to pay restitution. As for me, I sold the engagement ring and took a 2-week vacation to Europe solo. I posted exactly 0 photos online. When I got back, I painted the whole apartment, bought new furniture, and reclaimed my space. The place looked better than ever. Now it's a clean, functional space where a man and his dog can live in peace. Tristan and I meet weekly, and he's actually hitting it off with Melissa now, which is an unexpected silver lining. They've been dating for about a month. Sometimes the 4 of us, counting Max, hang out at my place for game nights. It's nice seeing 2 people who actually treat each other with respect. The shop was thriving too. After that first week of fog, I'd thrown myself into a big custom project, transforming a beat-up Harley Sportster into something special. I stripped it down to the frame, rebuilt the engine with performance parts, and gave it a custom paint job with subtle metal flake that changed color depending on the light. Tristan came by during the final assembly and whistled when he saw it. Man, you really outdid yourself on this one. The tank paint alone is worth whatever you're charging. The client who commissioned it was so impressed. He referred 3 friends, all wanting similar work. Word of mouth in the motorcycle community is better than any advertising you could pay for. Diego and the crew had really stepped up during the whole Stacy drama too. There were days when I wasn't at my best, and they picked up the slack without complaint. When the Sportster project got featured in a motorcycle magazine, I made sure they all got credit and bonuses. A good team is worth their weight in gold. About 3 months after the restraining order, I was at a motorcycle show in Las Vegas, displaying one of my custom builds. A woman came up and started asking detailed questions about the fabrication work, not the usual. It's pretty comments, but specific technical questions that showed she knew her stuff. Sarah, a 28-year-old female, turned out to be an industrial designer who rode a Triumph Street Triple. We exchanged numbers professionally but ended up texting about bikes, then other things. We've been dating casually for a couple of months now. She has her own career, her own apartment, her own money. She scratches Max behind the ears exactly where he likes it. The first time Sarah came over, Max immediately brought her his favorite toy, something he'd never done with Stacy. Dogs know quality people when they meet them. Sarah came to Sunday lunch at my dad's house last week. They spent 2 hours talking about motorcycle engine design while I grilled steaks. Dad texted me later, "She knows her stuff. Smart pick, son." High praise from a man who's suspicious of everyone by default. I learned more about myself in those few months than in the previous decade. I learned I'm stronger than I thought, that I have people in my corner who will show up when needed, and that's sometimes the best thing you can do with toxic people is cut them out completely. These days, I'm too busy building bikes and building a better life to dwell on what might have been. Some lessons are expensive, but man, are they worth it.